Welcome to Down Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. This is Miss Jenny and I am your astrologer. So today's video is just a quick poll to ask for feedback from you about what you might like to see in the future. So I was doing some chart work looking at outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto specifically, as they are prominent in the charts of people who became very prominent in the world or in society because of the roles that they played, right? The idea, of course, is that the outer planets, when activated, make you become a vehicle for their expression, and you don't really have a lot of choice in the matter. So you become symbolic of something for many, many other people, and it has nothing to do with you personally and everything to do with what you represent. Um, Recently, there was a suicide by a young lady in high school in New Jersey, North New Jersey, poor thing, as a result of bullying. And it turned into a huge raucous and not gain a lot of national attention because uh, one of the things that apparently has been happening is this culture of bullying has been allowed to exist in the high school forever. And this is not the first time these things have happened, but for whatever reason, this time it really gained a lot of traction and made national headlines. Looking at the girl's chart, she has Uranus conjunct the sun, so she is very much an outer planet person, and her life and death has become something that is symbolic of something less specific to her and more symbolic of things other people are experiencing. So I thought that was interesting. It led me into some investigations about other people who might have outer planet activity and all this sort of stuff, going down a rabbit hole here. Um, and just for the record, for anybody who is over the age of, I don't know, 10, who thinks that, children should let it fight it out themselves. And because I used to have a neighbor like that, she's literally a barn animal. Um, Kids have to fight it out for themselves and this, that, and the other thing. We all got bullied growing up. And listen, I don't know what cornhole, hobbit, troll hiding place you live in, but that's not the way the world works anymore. It's a much different world these kids live in than we did. It was never okay when we were young. It's lethal now. And this girl is symbolic, that outer planet Uranus shedding light on things and breaking a cycle. She is very much symbolic of how these things are very different now. So just knock it off. Jesus, let them fight it out. You do know kids are walking around with guns these days, right? Yeah, we're going to let them fight it out when your kid gets shot because the other one's getting tired of being bullied by them. Let me know then about this. Let them fight it out for themselves. Whew. Anyway, this has been an ongoing conversation since I can remember, at least 20 years ago, dealing with other people's children and their parents, right? So, anyway, back to where we're going with this. So, I'm looking up different people that are famous through modern history that may have had outer planet connections, and some of the interesting names I came up with. So, the first one was Martin Luther King, who does, in fact, have an outer planet prominent in his chart, but you can't really talk about Martin Luther King Jr. without talking about Malcolm X. So from Martin Luther King Jr., I jumped over to the chart of Malcolm X because surely, Malcolm X must have a prominent outer planet in his chart. And he does, but it's not what you would think it is. So it's interesting to see how people's mythology runs off with and away from necessarily their original intent, okay, or their actual essential nature. Now, since we got into Malcolm X, now of course we get into this whole conversation about race and racism. And just out of curiosity, this led me to one of the more famous founders of our I'm going to try not to be insulting here, but David Duke, who is one of the founding fathers of the KKK, his chart came up. And he also, like Martin Luther King, is an outer planet person, different outer planet, but an outer planet person. Um, and he does share some, are you ready for this? He does share some similarities in his chart to Malcolm X. Um, yeah, weren't expecting that, were you? And this, of course, now takes me back down to our illustrious and well known Hitler, who literally is vaulted and exalted in ways that have literally nothing to do with this man's actual abilities. Um, and that was an interesting examination looking at his chart and looking at racism as expressed through these characters and responses to racism. It was an interesting chart work. Um, with Hitler in particular, and I'm not a fan of giving this man any more airtime than I have to, but here's the thing I would say. One, when talking about Hitler in particular, it's important to understand and look at the chart this way and remember that great political leaders don't have to be geniuses to be political leaders. They are literally the front men of organizations. A classic example is an American band called Van Halen, who was amazing. And their lead singer was David Lee Roth. He was the front man performer for the band. As a combination, they were unbeatable. David Lee Roth helped bring Van Halen to the levels above and beyond their already superlative levels that they were at. They needed the front man to make this all coalesce and really pull in a lot more people than they would have otherwise. It was unfortunate that the band broke up. And of course, after the band broke up, they pretty much, that was the end of their popularity slowly, but they never really recovered from that, either David Lee Roth or the band. In politics, this is the same thing. So when you look at your political leaders and you look back at previous political leaders, I want you to look again and think about this for a second. Oftentimes, the political party in that administration or that particular leadership, no matter what country you're in, they need a front man. They need somebody who's charismatic, that puts on the good front, the showman, like David Lee Roth for the band Van Halen. They need the showman because on their own, they don't have that kind of salesmanship, right? Once the front man is in place, it allows people who are far more superlative and expert in various tactics, strategies, and abilities to do the work that they need to do. The symbolic figurehead, the leader of the group, literally is nothing more than a pretty face to put on the package. The real brains behind the operation is literally behind the operation. So sometimes when you look at people like exalting these people, these characters as being these super geniuses, like it helps to remember they weren't actually a genius as much as they were a front man for a very, very exceptional group of people who are actually making the decisions and getting the work done. And that's where the danger is every time we look at politics and political leaders, because it's not the person that you're thinking is in charge of everything. It's who everyone behind him, hiding behind him, doing the actual work that we have to worry about. So in Hitler's case, if you look at his chart, he's not necessarily an exceptional man, and in some cases, he's Looney Tunes. I mean, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs Looney Tunes. Ooh, the stories. And if you actually take the time to go read his biography about how he grew up, there's a reason he was like rolling in crazy clover. He was a very, very damaged man. I mean that sincerely and not sarcastically. And this led to these unbelievable, levels of cruelty and cowardice that he was capable of, or more specifically, gave license to and approved in the leadership underneath him, because they are literally little tentacles and arms like an octopus reaching out from him. They were his arms performing these things, much like the most recent Trump administration, where he is the charismatic figurehead. Apparently, there's a whole bunch of people who just love that showmanship that man offers. But it was his administration that was responsible for the brains and the thinking and the strategy and the operations. He wasn't smart enough to do this on his own. He literally was there to rubber stamp things and to get the populace whipped up and supportive of whatever he rubber stamped. The actual problematic people who were responsible for a lot of these horrible things, and approving them and encouraging him to approve them, stamp, 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 were the people behind him. Like Stephen Miller is a classic example of Betsy DeVos, right? That idiot they put in charge of HUD. The what is that man's name? Oh my God, the list goes on and on and on. So, I'm not thrilled with him, but I'm also not going to let anybody in his cabinet get a free pass either, because they are as bad or worse than he could ever be by himself. Van Halen and their band frontman, David Lee Roth. Now, the reason I bring that up is because what I discovered is that Hitler and Trump both share a very similar aspect, which lends itself to some really dysfunctional behavior. Really dysfunctional behavior. So they have a lot more in common than we realize. I should do Stephen Miller's chart, but I'm pretty sure nobody knows who Stephen Miller is unless you actually follow politics. So we're 10 minutes in this video, so I haven't asked the question. So here's the question I have for you. Before I go to the time and effort to do these charts, because I think they're interesting, I would like you to give me your input. Do you even want to watch a video about these charts? Because if it's not interesting for you, there's no reason to do all of that, and I can just read the charts by myself without putting on a video. So, if you would like to see me do these charts, hit the like button. If you would not like me to do these charts, hit the dislike button. If you would like to see one or two of these charts, but not all of them, then put the names of the charts in the comment section who you would like to see a chart done on. Again, I'm not really interested in giving airtime to hateful people. Lord knows they get enough airtime these days as is, right? Because apparently Kevin McCarthy and Marjorie Taylor Greene are having an affair. I couldn't. I don't even have a and I there's no way I would be able to get it anywhere near that woman. But God bless. Married men will sleep with anything sometimes, I swear. And don't you get mad at me. Bill Clinton has literally a long parade of dog show contestants in his history. Some married men will literally sleep with anything as long as she's willing. Right? They never cheat with good-looking women. Or maybe they do, but when they do finally get a good-looking woman to cheat with them, then they want to marry her. And I don't know. Just saying, this is all my personal experience. This is not a universal truism. Maybe. I don't know. You tell me. Okay, so that's the deal. That's the question. Would you like me to cover any of these charts? Hit the like button for yes, dislike button for no. If you'd like to see one or more of these charts, but not all of them, put the names of the charts you would like to see in the comment box below. It might be April by the time I get around to looking at this, but I will do it. I will do it. March is going to be a quite the month. So I may not have a chance to do it in March, but certainly in April. All right. Thanks for your input ahead of time. You guys have a great day.